Hello, and welcome to the 6th episode of the Learning Guitar series. This time we're going to look at the shape of D, which we studied in lesson 4 and 5. Lesson 4 we looked at the scale, lesson 5 we looked at all the arpeggios. This time we're going to look at all the chords we can kind of derive from this particular shape. Of course, we can have millions of shapes of chords. There is tons of books out there that discuss this. My personal approach is chords that I tend to use in a band setting. So if there is a bass player, and chords that instead I tend to use more often if, say, a duo situation, say a vocal and a guitar, for example, where the guitar might also need to cover some degree of bass duties. So let's look at the PDF just briefly to give you an idea of what I've done with it. First of all, I added the scale at the beginning, although we're discussing chords, and scale and its intervals, so that you have a good reference of where these chords comes from in terms of various combination. I divided the sequence in group of strings so that you can actually practice it as a sequence if you want to, okay? So here is the first 4 strings, okay? Then I moved on into some rootless shapes, so the root note is not in there, and as you can see when we look at the practice session, we'll look at how that works in terms of sound and in terms of practice. It's 3 pages of it. Here I moved to the middle 4 strings with the bass in the 5th, basically, and that's going to be important, especially in the future when we look at inversions, okay? But not only bass in the 5ths, you have bass in the 6ths, every possible combination we can, not every possible actually, a lot of combination that you can get out from this scale, okay? As we move forward, first 4 strings, same thing. Chords with 5 strings at a time. There is several exercises you can do that in order to connect chords. And last but not least, since we're also discussing 3 notes per string kind of theory when it comes to scales, I also added a few possibility for some stretch chords. Nothing special. Actually, there is a lot more space here for you to devise many more chord shapes if you don't mind stretching with your left hand. In terms of practice, there is different ways we can approach this. First of all, we can approach it from an ear training point of view. What I mean is, what I'm going to do in this case, I'm going to loop, say, a G chord, a G note, like that. And I'm going to go through some of the shapes. And the simple reason I'm using like a little drone is because some of the shapes contain a root note. Some of the shapes don't. So I want to hear the ones, particularly the ones that don't, against, imagine this drone like if it was a bass player. Anyway, I'm just going to go through in order and, just to hear the sound. I'm doing this in G, so I'm up here. That's your typical triadic shape. This kind of shape is actually very comfortable. Let me take the delay off for a second, especially if you're playing, funky music, that kind of playing, rhythmic playing, where you need a lot of top notes, or even a famous, right gas guitar, anything that needs chords on the, top part of the guitar. Okay. That's your major 7, 1, 5, 7, 3 kind of. You can play it this way. You can play it this way. This is my move in the 6th. So, like an exercise you can do could be just triad, major 7, major 6, major 7, triad. So the first 3 shapes you find in the PDF. This is 1, 3. So we're just moving the 5th to a 3rd. also nice. With a 9, that's an interesting sound. 6/9, 1/3/6/9. The way you practice this, in a way, is like it's a bit like trying to write music with it. That's how I see it. 1/5/6/9, 1/5/6/9, 1/5/7/9. So you could think of, so this is kind of static a little bit as a practice. Now you have like one of the first voicing where the root is not there anymore, so this is 7/3/6/9. There is no root. In that case, it's comfortable to have this kind of drone in the background helping us. Right? So we can confront the sound. Like that. And this helps us when you see when we're connecting shapes, because this is also G, right? So you'll find this kind of chord in the shape of E. So we can actually move, especially say you have a song that has several bars of the same chord that you just don't want to be static. Sure, what I mean? So you are, 4 bars of G. So now connecting the two shapes. These two we have so far, right? Let's see what else. This is another interesting shape. This is like 2/5/6/3. Again, it's rootless. It doesn't have a root in it. I'm just mixing them up. 7/5/6/9. That's like kind of interesting. And you can kind of move from this as a practice. So you have, that's with the root. Let's see if I can stretch. That's 6, 7, root, major 7. Nice to build like kind of pedals. As you can see, it's almost like practicing by trying to write with it. And that's why in the PDF I subdivided the chords in, say, shapes that operate on the last 4 strings, maybe in the middle 4 strings, or on the top 4 strings, so you can move across them. I kind of sequenced it that way, right? This is 2/5/1/3, so it's got the 9th in the bass. So these are all without root note. Major 7, 6. That's what I was looking for. This is 2/5/7/3. Interesting that that's all you have to do. Then you have 2/5/1/9. And I like this with this. That's with the root note. That's without. Now let's look at the 4 notes in the middle. So you got a 5 root note, 3 major 7. So it's the same as kind of this, but with this shape, with the 6, 7 and 3, 6, 9. So you can have this kind of interesting. This is a 1, 5, 5, 7 kind of stacked kind of chord, right? And this, I'm adding a 9 at the bottom. Again, a rootless 1, 5, 7, 3, 6. Now this looks like a D, right? And actually, this is a D major if you think of it. But I'm thinking of it as in 5, 2, 5, 7 from this point of view. Okay, so imagine this. Right? You could write this as a slash chord, like a triad D with a bass of G. It's kind of nice sound. Just it might not be comfortable to play this. I mean, it's like, at least some of you enjoy this kind of stretched chord shaping. I tend to go for this, right? Especially if there is a bass player, right? Using the same principle, 5, 2, 5, 1. Okay, that's page 1, and again you have several 1. I mean, 6, 2, 5, 7, 6, 2, 5, 1. That's a 4, right? Just moving across the shapes, right? This is a 6, 2, 5, 6. That's a 6, 7, 3, 1. It's a bit of a stretchy chord, but a nice sounding one. This is where was I? 6, 5, major 7, and 9. That's why I said it's important that you have a drone or something that gives you a reference. That's the sound combined, okay? Again, within the shape, there's some interesting symmetries, like this. For example, all these notes belong to G. Okay. This 4, but also this 4, and also this 4, right? Or you can see them as a group of 3. So think of this like that. I'm only hitting 3 notes at a time, holding down a bass of G. Now comes like the ones that I find kind of important in a way, because they belong to I'm in a duo situation, okay? So now we'll look at a very important inversion. So if this is G, okay, this is also G, but with a third in the bass. That's what we call an inversion, okay? So here was your same chord. And this is a very important thing, especially if you want to develop chord melody. Okay, the idea that you can move, melodically up. I hope it makes sense. So the following shapes are very important in terms of inversions and having the third in the bass. Okay, So again, the basic ones, that's a full-on inversion, so 3, 1, 5, 3, 1 again. So that's an inversion of this. Sorry. And that's the major 7 version. So this is inversion of this. And as we move along, you'll see all the 3, 4 inversions. So again, chord melody. That's how you want to play it, kind of developing some scalic, right? So I'm basically playing this part of a little bit of a scale. Using shape of E, and then shape of D. And there's, of course, many ways you can do that. Same thing here. So I can do. So as I said, like we have in page 3, you'll see, as we've seen in the theory, you have possible exercises you can do in terms of inversions, and that's, as I say, very important, especially if you're planning on doing some degree of chord melody. Okay, I suggest you practice some of them and see how it feels. Like, say for example, this. And on the 3rd page, I left some example of stretch chords. Honestly, I don't use this much, but they can be very interesting in terms of you finding some uncommon kind of voicings. So in this case, we're trying to use both cages at the same time. The one I found more interesting was the fact that all this group of 3 notes happen in the shape of G, right? When you look at the scale, you'll see it, which allows me to do this. Right? It's kind of just a geometrical way of seeing things, right? Of course, there is a famous Police, right? Police song. Very stretchy, if you ask me. That one. As I said, you can you'll find several one, but the moment you start combining shapes, that's always a very interesting one, okay? So basically 1, 5, and 9, or just stack them 2 intervals of fifths. Of course, the other way of doing it is to practice it vertically, which means in this case we're practicing a progression. And what I mean by that, say we're doing A flat, and then we're doing F. A flat, A flat, F, A flat, F, A flat, F, A flat. Now look at inversions, F. That's again if you need the bass, F, F, A flat, So this is with the inversions, and that's why I said like it's very important, especially if you need to carry the bass and you don't want to go up and down the guitar. In this case, we're having a third. Let me actually take this off for a second, just to realize that it makes no sense. That's a pedal G. Thank God that's a major 7. That's why it was not sounding weird. Nevertheless, so A flat, F, A flat, F, F. So, study the shapes and the PDF, look for connections. So, especially when you're practicing vertically, my suggestion is that you choose a set of strings. Say in this case, I'm going to use first, third, fourth, and fifth. And when I'm changing chord, I'm going to try and use the same set of strings with the next chord, okay, to give it the sense of continuity, right? If I use 5 strings, again, same 5 strings, it gives a sense of continuity. And you can do the same thing on the next, say if you want to use just 3 strings. Right? I hope this helped. Now let's look at some way we can play. You know, still practicing, but actually we're playing. We're kind of getting together the chord theory, but also like the scales and the arpeggios. Okay, from the playing perspective, there is 2 ways. I mean, there should be 2 ways in which we try and be creative with what we learned. And the reason for that, at least that's how I like to do it, by the way, is I'm not suggesting that you have to do it that way. But since we're studying guitar and we're learning about it in an horizontal manner, so the same key across the neck, or also vertically, so changing key, within maybe the same cage, I like to play both ways, okay? So, for example, to play horizontally, let's do it in A. Okay, that's A, okay? I'll just do a drone. Okay. Maybe it's a bit loud. Okay. We know by now that we have the scale. But also we have like a shape of G, right? Shape of D. And we have a bunch of arpeggios, okay? So just free playing using only this. The other playing we can do instead is moving across keys, obviously. Let's take, in this case, I'll take a progression, which is maybe A going into, C, going into A. I like this minor third kind of jumps. In this case, I'll loop it. Let's see what happens with that. course, use the things that applies to the genre of music you play the most, obviously. Like, I'm into jazz and all that kind of stuff. But I think I demonstrated to you in some videos before, I could just put a distortion in and start playing 3 notes per strings. And so it really depends on, you can apply this material in so many different ways. So whatever works for you, that's the kind of practice and playing you should do. Of course, the more you know in terms of language, the better it is. So until next time, stay safe, and it's been a pleasure as always. Ciao.